Chapter 41 Sneak Attack on Murong Fu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the final showdown, the family of the winner will get the right to mine the spirit stone veins for 3 years. Although the Long family is the #1 family in Jingchuan City, it is very poor compared to the forces in other cities present. Obtaining a spirit stone vein means that spirit stones can be mined continuously, although the spirit stones contained in this spirit stone vein are of the lowest quality. It is enough to change many things. Xiao Fan's injuries were no longer serious, but he still looked very serious. Hang Zixuan looked solemn and kept a distance from Murong Fu. Murong Fu looked at the two of them calmly, with a gentle smile on his lips. Xiao Fan, Hang Zixuan, I will give you a chance to deal with me together, otherwise it will be too boring to fight. Hearing what Murong Fu said, Xiao Fan was fine and had no reaction. However, Hang Zixuan was furious. Murong Fu, are you looking down on me? I'm just a suggestion, because when fighting alone, you are indeed no match for me. Murong Fu smiled lightly, then looked at Xiao Fan, and you are so seriously injured, how can you? How much strength can you use? As a close disciple that Elder Ziyun Dongtian cares about, Murong Fu must have his confidence and pride. No need, I can kill you by myself. Hang Zixuan shouted violently. Her 4th level of Qi transformation realm exploded, and a silver whip appeared in her hand. This long whip exudes terrible pressure, and it is also a mysterious level magic weapon. Xiao Fan was stunned. Is this woman's brain hard to use? Murong Fu is at the 5th level of Qi transformation realm. You are at a lower level than your opponent, and you actually want to fight in a one-on-one battle? Everyone in the Hang family in the audience was speechless. Some even covered their faces with their hands, unable to bear to look directly. Even the ancestor of the Hang family sighed deeply, feeling that his children were hopeless. With the long whip in hand, Hang Zixuan murmured in her mouth. The long whip extended for tens of meters, emitting a dazzling silver light. Hang Zixuan waved it casually, and the places where the silver whip struck exploded. What kind of treasure is this long whip? The Hang family probably doesn't have such a magical weapon, right? Indeed not, but it looks like this whip is not simple. The power of this whip is so terrifying. There were constant discussions around him, and even Xiao Fan was surprised. The damage caused by the swing of the long whip was greater than he imagined. It was estimated that it had the strength of a 5th-level monk in the Qi transformation realm to attack with all his strength. You don't look stupid yet. Xiao Fan murmured, reassessing Hang Zixuan's strength. The opponent didn't use all his strength in the first battle, and Xiao Fan didn't intend to take action. It would be a good thing for him to let these two people consume him. By the way, he could also observe Murong Fu's strength and what was going on with that strange thing that could make people's bodies slow. At this time, Xiao Fan does not look like a participant, but more like a spectator. Hang Zixuan whipped the long whip in her hand at Murong Fu. The silver whip exuded terrifying pressure and the momentum was astonishing. Murong Fu's eyes narrowed slightly. The speed of the long whip was faster than he imagined. However, he was very agile and could avoid the attack of the long whip by turning sideways. The ground hit by the long whip cracked every inch, and a pit was created that was 1 meter long and half a meter deep. Hang Zixuan failed to hit a single blow, so she did not hesitate and continued to swing the whip, not caring at all about the consumption of spiritual power. Murong Fu dodged around. Although he seemed a little embarrassed, he kept approaching Hang Zixuan. Hang Zixuan naturally discovered this. She backed away, always keeping a distance from Murong Fu. His technique of slowing people down was too terrifying, so she had to keep a certain distance. The scene of this fight was very heroic. Hang Zixuan's long whip was extremely destructive, and grey fog filled the mine. Why didn't he directly use the technique to make Hang Zixuan slow down? Is it because the distance was not enough? Xiao Fan observed the two fighting while being careful to avoid being accidentally injured. Hang Zixuan kept her distance and attacked because she was afraid of being slow and being taken away by Murong Fu. However, Murong Fu has not used this ability until now. The only explanation is that he cannot use it because the distance is not enough. It is speculated that, like Xiao Fan, Murong Fu did have this reason. and it was also because of this reason that he kept wanting to get close to Hang Zishuan. At the beginning of the fight, Hang Zishuan had the upper hand, but using the mysterious magic weapon was very taxing on herself. Her movements began to become sluggish, and the power of swinging the whip also began to decrease significantly. Boom! At this moment, Hang Zishuan swung his long whip, and in the gap, Murong Fu's eyes flashed, and he jumped up quickly and ran towards Hang Zishuan. Oops! Hang Zishuan was shocked. She had thought she had mastered Murong Fu's speed, but she never expected that the other party had been hiding it all this time. Just for this moment. Murong Fu had a feminine smile on his lips. He was less than 10 meters away from Hang Zishuan. The latter wanted to run away, but his body suddenly became sluggish. In the blink of an eye, Murong Fu was 3 meters in front of Hang Zishuan. However, Hang Zishuan's body became sluggish, and her movements to withdraw the whip in her hand were extremely slow, and she could only let the other party slaughter her. It's over, Hang Zishuan is doomed. This time the Murong family won. No way, this Murong Fu is too strong, he is worthy of being valued by the elders of Ziyun Dongtian and accepted as a close disciple. How can we fight him? That everyone thought that this competition was over. Murong Fu smiled, he clenched his fists and planned to kill Hang Zishuan. The latter closed her eyes in despair, she had no other trump card. Now, however, Xiao Fan moved at the spot. He had been hiding his breath just now, so that the two people would not notice his existence, but he had always kept a distance from the two people. He could kill them at a close distance with an instant burst. Xiao Fan's figure was like a thunderbolt, the fourth level of the Qi transformation realm burst out, and the golden light of his right hand was shining, which was the broken throat lock. Murong Fu was startled, and his hair trembled instantly, and a strong sense of crisis came from behind him. Not good. But it was too late. When Murong Fu reacted, Xiao Fan was already half a meter behind him, and the broken throat lock seal in his hand was aimed at his throat. What? Everyone nearby was stunned. No one expected this to happen. Even Murong was shocked. This guy had been hiding until now, and suddenly attacked. Too insidious. Throat-crushing lock, Xiao Fan shouted, and the seal of his right hand was still 3 inches away from Murong Fu's neck. But suddenly Murong Fu's body exuded a piercing cold air. Xiao Fan felt as if his body was wrapped in ice, which slowed his movements. Taking this opportunity, Murong Fu planned to dodge and escape. He had seen the lethality of the throat-crushing lock. Su Yizhou was almost killed by this move. However, he still underestimated Xiao Fan. The ice that froze Xiao Fan's body was shattered by him, and then the seal in his hand hit Murong Fu fiercely. What? How is it possible? Murong Fu was shocked and couldn't believe it, but he had dodged half of his body in the time just now, and the seal of the throat-crushing lock hit his right arm. Chapter 43 Breaking the Defense. You are listening at NavelFull.audio. Murong Fu frowned, and the cracks on the turtle shell light screen disappeared instantly and returned to their original appearance. Really? A smile appeared on Xiao Fan's lips. It seems that if your turtle shell is activated, it will consume a lot of your spiritual power, right? Murong Fu said calmly. So what? Hang Zishuan naturally noticed the crack just now and asked, what's going on? Although this turtle shell is a high-grade Xian-level magic weapon, the spiritual power consumed when activated cannot be underestimated. Every time an attack hits the light curtain of the turtle shell, some of the spiritual power on Murong Fu's body will be lost. It seems that he is maintaining it. The operation of this turtle shell is used. Xiao Fan gave a simple explanation, and Hang Zishuan nodded and understood. The higher the level of the magic weapon, the greater the spiritual energy consumed when activated. This is common sense. But so what? Murong Fu said calmly, with your current strength, you cannot cause any serious damage to the turtle shell light curtain, so my spiritual energy consumption will not be very large. Indeed, as Murong Fu said, if a master from the Tongtian realm came and attacked a few times, Murong Fu would probably be unable to withstand it, but facing 2 monks at the 4th level of the Qi transformation realm, what if we just let them attack? Then my guess is correct. Xiao Fan smiled, his aura surged, and he clenched his fists and smashed the turtle shell light curtain hard. Hang Zishuan thought about this, took a deep breath, and continued to hit the turtle shell light curtain with the long whip in her hand. A sneer appeared on Murong Fu's lips. Fight, let's see how long you can fight. In fact, he was forced to do this. He was not good at fighting, and his technique of freezing people was useless against Xiao Fan. Moreover, he was injured and his right arm was temporarily unable to move. Facing the two of them joining forces, he had no other solution for the time being, so he could only do this. When my right arm recovers a little, you two will die. Really? Let's see who can outlast whom. Xiao Fan sneered and attacked vigorously regardless of the consumption of spiritual power. The strength unleashed by each blow was no weaker than that caused by Hang Zishuan's silver whip. If this consumption continues, Xiao Fan and Hang Zishuan will lose. Many people around said with emotion, in fact, everyone has this idea. After all, Murong Fu only uses spiritual power to activate and operate, and the consumption is naturally very small. However, a quarter of an hour later, Hang Zishuan was out of breath, and Xiao Fan was still bombarding with all his strength. Half an hour later, Hang Zishuan was already lying down from exhaustion and had no strength. Xiao Fan was still attacking. An hour passed, and Xiao Fan was still attacking with all his strength. Murong Fu's face turned a little green. Xiao Fan in front of him actually fought with all his strength for an hour. Is this a monster? Not only did his spiritual power not recover, but it even consumed more. Even if he took a lot of pills to restore his spiritual power, it still didn't help. The same goes for Hang Zishuan, who took a lot of pills to restore spiritual power, but the effect was not obvious. After all, the elixirs they took were only elementary first-grade elixirs, so the effect was naturally not obvious. Is this Xiao Fan a monster? He has been attacking with all his strength for an hour. I'm not dreaming, it's been an hour. An illusion, this must be an illusion. That the people around him were shocked, even the elders of various families, and couldn't figure out where Xiao Fan got his physical strength. What they didn't know was that Murong Fu's defense method of isolating himself from the light curtain of the turtle shell happened to be a success for Xiao Fan. During this period, his soul returned to the star map many times, eating a lot to restore his spiritual power. The elixir. These elixirs are extremely precious. Although the effect is much reduced if they are not refined into elixirs, they are not comparable to first-grade elixirs. Damn! Murong Fu's eyes were a little red. The turtle shell light curtain was much weaker than it was at the beginning, and it was broken several times. And he had no more elixirs, so he couldn't hold on for much longer. Crush it for me! Xiao Fan shouted violently. The ground shook, and a deafening sound was made between the turtle shell light curtain and his fist. Murong's senior team looked on with ugly expressions. He did not expect that Murong Fu would be forced to such an extent. Murong Fu took a deep breath and put away the turtle shell light curtain. It would not be good for him to continue using it like this. Did it succeed? Hang Zishuan asked, looking at Xiao Fan. She was also surprised. She didn't expect Xiao Fan to be so lasting. Call. Xiao Fan gasped for breath, attacking with all his strength on one side, and using elixirs on the other to recover. If he wasn't tired, it would be a lie. If it weren't for the powerful dragon elephant tyrant body technique and the 9 transformation chi techniques, his physical body was strong. He might have fallen apart long ago. Similarly, Murong Fu on the opposite side also felt uncomfortable, but fortunately he could move his right arm. Come on, let me see how powerful you are. Murong let out a sigh of relief, disappeared, and rushed forward. His first target was Hang Zishuan. Hang Zishuan was shocked. She didn't even have the strength to swing the whip now. In the blink of an eye, Murong Fu was approaching, not much slower than before. Damn it! Xiao Fan cursed. Murong Fu only consumed spiritual power, but he and Hang Zishuan consumed spiritual power and physical strength. Especially for him, his physical strength had been exhausted long ago, and he could not use his spiritual power alone. Before reaching the Tongtian realm, they were all mortal bodies. Boom! Hang Zixuan was beaten and flew backwards. She wanted to fight back, but under Murong Fu's technique of freezing and slowing down, she had no power to resist. By the time Xiao Fan arrived, it was already too late. Hang Zixuan passed out and was eliminated. Murong Fu turned around and looked at Xiao Fan. You and I are the only ones left now. Xiao Fan sighed. The reason why he wanted to save Hang Zixuan was very simple. Murong Fu had weird abilities and a higher level than himself. It was a good thing to have another teammate. Looks like it's going to be a head-to-head confrontation between you and me. Xiao Fan exhaled, anger flashed in Murong Fu's eyes. He wanted to avenge Xiao Fan's sneak attack on him just now. Murong Fu's aura changed, and his cultivation at the 5th level of the Qi transformation realm exploded, and he rushed towards Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan's face was solemn. The 4th level of Qi transformation realm's cultivation exploded, and the two sides collided. Although Xiao Fan's level is one level lower than Murong Fu's, the level of skills he practices is high enough to make up for the gap. The two sides fought for dozens of rounds in the blink of an eye, with no winner or loser. Xiao Fan punched Murong Fu in the chest, and the opponent's palm hit Xiao Fan's neck. However, Xiao Fan's figure suddenly stopped, and was frozen. This palm hit Xiao Fan directly on the neck. His body tilted, and the bones in his neck cracked. However, in the blink of an eye, Xiao Fan shattered the ice that sealed him, and hit Murong Fu in the chest like a fist. The latter vomited blood and took a few steps back. Chapter 46 Immortal Palace Disciples are aggressive. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The Immortal Palace disciples were so aggressive that Long Anhai turned pale. The head of the largest family in Jingchuan City was actually scolded by a young man. How could he stand on his own after this news spread? Xiao Fan is from my Long family. It's not your turn to come to my Long family to ask us to make friends. Long Anhai said coldly. Long Anhai, are you afraid that you don't want to live anymore? How dare you stop the Immortal Palace sending people here? Xiao Yuan laughed and said, Long Anhai, do you want your Long family to be wiped out? Wei Xia sneered, is my waste son worthy of being so treasured by you? Why, now that we are leaving, you still can't bear to leave? The elder of the second clan behind Long Anhai took a step forward and scolded, people of my Long family, when will it be your turn to ask for someone? He, Xiao Fan, is already my son-in-law of the Long family, so he is my Long family. It's hard for the Xiao family to ask for help. Old guy, when will it be your turn to speak here? Xiao Yuan cursed, which made the old and angry faces of the two clans turn red, and he was about to retaliate. The outer disciple of Piaomiao Immortal Palace waved his hands, interrupted everyone, and said in a deep voice, I came here on the order of senior brother Xiao Tian to take Xiao Fan away. If you dare to stop me, it means disrespect to senior brother Xiao Tian. Everyone in the Long family looked ugly, but let them take Xiao Fan away. If no one in the Long family had reacted in the past, they might have thought it was a good thing and just handed it over, but now, Xiao Fan is the hero of his Long family. He fought hard for the Long family to get the Spirit Stone Vein. How could his Long family be so ruthless? Long Anhai's face was extremely gloomy, and after a moment he replied in a deep voice, Xiao Fan is my son-in-law of Long Mansion, so it has nothing to do with the Xiao family. And even if you are from Miao Miao Immortal Palace, by virtue of your why do we, the Long family, hand over people to you? Long Anhai's words were very strong, and he did not choose to back down when faced with such a huge force as Piaomiao Immortal Palace. Okay, I will go into your Long family now to get him. I will personally break Xiao Fan's hands and feet and take him away. I will see who dares to stop me. If your Long family takes action, I will go back and report to the Immortal Palace. You the Long family is finished. The disciple of Piaomiao Immortal Palace sneered, and as soon as he finished speaking, he planned to force his way into the Long family. His cultivation level was at the 6th level of Qi Transformation Realm. Long Anhai's strength was at the great perfection of the Qi Transformation Realm, and the clan elders behind him were also at the 6th or 7th level of the Qi Transformation Realm. However, they did not dare to take action in the face of the approaching Immortal Palace disciples. Immortal Palace disciples, even if they are just outer disciples, represent the Immortal Palace when they go out for a walk. Seeing that no one in the Long family dared to stop him, the housekeeper was the first to stand up and said, "Master Dai, I will lead the way." The outer disciples of the Immortal Palace nodded and followed the butler with a flattering smile on his face into the Dragon Mansion. Xiao Yuan and Wei Xia glanced at Long Anhai, snorted coldly and entered the Dragon Mansion in a swaggering manner. Long Anhai clenched his fists, his forehead was full of veins, and his body was shaking with anger. The clan elders behind him were all the same. The elder of the second clan asked anxiously, "Do we really not care about Xiao Fan?" Long Anhai's face was gloomy. After thinking for a while, he said, "Old man of the second clan, you go to the treasure pavilion to find Mr. Qiao. He and Xiao Fan have an irreconcilable relationship. Tell him about the situation here. Elders of the three clans, go to the city lord's mansion and ask for the city lord." After hearing the words, the two clan elders nodded, and without any time to say anything, they went to these two places as quickly as possible to look for reinforcements. Long Anhai took a deep breath and said, "Let's go. No matter what, we must stop Mr. Qiao and the city lord before they arrive." At this time, Xiao Fan was in the hall of the other courtyard. Sitting across from him were Long Miaoyin and Long Kaiwei. Recently, this girl came to the other courtyard to see Xiao Fan every day. "Brother-in-law. Is that girl named Heng Zishuan pretty? Who is more beautiful than me?" Long Kaiwei always has one problem after another, giving Xiao Fan a headache. Just when Xiao Fan covered his head, he heard a servant from the outer door rushing to report. "Third master, it's not good, someone from the Immortal Palace has arrived." Xiao Fan frowned. Long Miaoyin and Long Kaiwei beside him also knew that something bad was going to happen. However, before the servants came in, Xiao Fan heard a familiar voice coming from outside. "Little beast, why don't you come out to greet your father when he comes?" Hearing this voice, the veins on Xiao Fan's face suddenly bulged. Xiao Yuan, a moment later, led by the housekeeper's flattering smile, Piao Miao Immortal Palace disciples, Xiao Yuan, Wei Xia, and a group of people from the Xiao family arrived at the hall. Xiao Fan looked at Xiao Yuan, Wei Xia, the housekeeper, his cousins from the Xiao family, and the people in the Xiao family in front of him. His face was extremely gloomy. "You little beast, when you see me coming, why don't you come over and bow?" Seeing Xiao Fan standing there, Wei Xia cursed directly. Although she had given birth to 2 children, she was the type who took good care of herself and still had charm, but at this moment she looked like a shrew. "Who are you, an old witch, and why are you calling my brother-in-law?" At this moment, Long Kaiwei, who was behind Xiao Fan, stood up and pointed at her nose and scolded Wei Xia. "Well, you little girl, I scolded my son for meddling in your shit, but you dare to scold me. Let's see if I don't tear your mouth apart." Wei Xia was very angry after being insulted by a little girl, and wanted to take action directly, but he was stopped by Xiao Yuan on the side. "Those are small things. Taking Xiao Fan away is the big thing." Xiao Yuan's words made Wei Xia calm down, and for the sake of his son Xiao Tian, she had to endure it for now. The disciple of Piao Miao Immortal Palace did not speak, but looked Xiao Fan up and down with his eyes. This was the brother of the genius Xiao Tian, the trash that the other party called him. Xiao Yuan took a step forward and said to Xiao Fan in a commanding tone, "Xiao Fan, you and this Immortal Palace disciple go together, your brother wants to see you." Before Xiao Fan could speak, Long Kaiwei said angrily, "Why should I follow you?" Then she was pulled aside by Long Miaoyin. Although Long Miaoyin was worried, she knew that the other party was Xiao Fan's parents, and it was not appropriate for Long Kaiwei's identity to speak here. Xiao Fan did not speak in a hurry. Xiao Yuan on the other side raised his eyebrows and continued, "Xiao Fan, you'd better leave with us honestly and don't force us to take action." "Are you talking to me?" Xiao Fan looked at Xiao Yuan with an idiot look. He couldn't figure out what the other party was thinking. He came here and said a word to make him leave with them. And the disciple of Piao Miao Immortal Palace on the side spoke, "My name is Dai Hanfei, and I am here to take you back under the order of senior brother Xiao Tian. If you don't listen, senior brother Xiao Tian has ordered me to break your legs. Then take it back." "That's right, Everyone in the Long family has already agreed to let us take you away. Trash, you'd better leave with us and suffer less. Wei Xia said coldly. Xiao Fan frowned, but before he could speak, he heard heavy footsteps coming from outside. Xiao Fan is from my Long family, and you are not qualified enough to take him away. Chapter 47 Life and Death Battle. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Long Anhai arrived at the other courtyard with a group of Long family elders and Long mansion guests. Father, not seeing the person coming, Long Kaiwei ran over directly, aggrieved and wanted to complain. Xiao Yuan turned around and looked at Long Anhai fiercely. Long, are you seeking death? This is my Long family. Xiao, you'd better be careful what you say. Long Anhai's face suddenly turned cold, and he said in a deep voice, I don't dare to do anything to the Immortal Palace disciples, but I, the Long family, still dare to kill you, Xiao Yuan. Hearing Long Anhai's words, Xiao Yuan suddenly became silent. Wei Xia beside him originally wanted to say something, but after hearing Long Anhai's words, she didn't dare to say it. Long Anhai didn't have time to pay attention to Long Kaiwei, and strode to Xiao Fan's side. He was relieved to see that Xiao Fan was fine. Dai Hanfei, a disciple of the Immortal Palace on the opposite side, looked at Long Anhai and said in a deep voice, Does your Long family want to go against the Immortal Palace? Do you know what will happen to those who go against the Immortal Palace? Long Anhai looked ugly and said bravely, My Long family naturally does not dare to go against the Immortal Palace, but Xiao Fan is a member of my Long family, so my Long family must protect him. I said that Xiao Fan is the person that senior brother Xiao Tian wants and must be taken away. Dai Hanfei spoke coldly, and after saying that, a long sword appeared in his hand, and he planned to take action directly. Long Anhai looked ugly. If he really took action against this disciple of Immortal Palace and this matter spread to the ears of Immortal Palace, then his Long family might be expelled from Wuhuang Prefecture overnight. However, at this moment, a terrifying coercion came from mid-air, which could only be emitted by a powerful person in the heavenly realm. The ancestor of the Long family, Long Zizai, appeared above everyone's heads, looking down with an ugly expression. Long Anhai had already sent someone to notify him just now. Tongtian realm. Dai Hanfei frowned. His cultivation was only at the 6th level of Qi transformation realm, and he was no match for the Tongtian realm. Judging from the aura emanating from the opponent's body, it is obvious that he is not weak in the Tongtian realm. However, there was no fear on Dai Hanfei's face. After all, his status as a disciple of the Immortal Palace was a gold medal for him to avoid death. Old guy, you want to take action? Dai Hanfei held a long sword in his hand and glanced at Long Zizai in the air, without any politeness in his words. Junior, don't be arrogant. Long Zizai was furious when he heard this. He was a strong man in the Tongtian realm. How had he ever been so humiliated? You have to think carefully. I am from the Immortal Palace. What will be the consequences of taking action against me? Dai Hanfei said in a deep voice. Xiao Yuan and his wife breathed a sigh of relief on the side. Most people in the Xiao family were like this. When they saw the ancestor of the Long family exuding aura, the couple almost peed in fear. The ancestor of the Long family was so angry that his face turned red, and his eyes seemed to want to eat people. However, thinking of the Long family, he endured it and did not take action. A mere outer disciple of the Immortal Palace dares to come here and act wild. However, at this time, a faint voice floated from a distance. Only the voice was heard, but the person was not seen. Who's talking? Pretending to be a ghost. As soon as Dai Hanfei finished speaking, he felt a murderous aura surrounding himself, but he still forced himself to calm down. You said I'm pretending to be a ghost? A figure was like lightning, reaching the sky above the other courtyard in the blink of an eye, floating not far from the ancestor of the Long family. Who are you? Dai Hanfei asked. The aura on the other person's body was terrifying. My name is Qiao Yuanzhou, and people like to call me Mr. Qiao. The person coming in mid-air is Qiao Yuanzhou. Dai Hanfei frowned, feeling that the name was familiar, but Xiao Yuan on the side was very familiar with the name. He quickly whispered in Dai Hanfei's ear, he is the North Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion. What? After hearing this, Dai Hanfei was surprised. He was the North Pavilion Master of Zhenbao Pavilion and one of the 4 major Pavilion Masters, although the power of Piamiao Immortal Palace is higher than that of Zhenbao Pavilion. Comparing him as an outer disciple of Piamiao Immortal Palace with the North Pavilion Master, one of the 4 Masters of Zhenbao Pavilion, is not enough at all. Why, do you know who I am? Mr. Qiao said with a smile, but his smile was a bit cold. Dai Hanfei took a deep breath, then clasped his fists and said, Junior Dai Hanfei, an outer disciple of Piamiao Immortal Palace, pays homage to Mr. Qiao. I didn't know that the person coming was Mr. Qiao just now. Please atone for your sins. That this scene stunned everyone around him, including Long Zizi. They only knew that the treasure pavilion was powerful and had countless treasures, but they did not expect that it would have such great influence that even the disciples of the Immortal Palace would bow their heads. Even Xiao Fan was surprised. He originally thought that he had overestimated the influence of Zhenbao Pavilion, but it seemed that he had underestimated it. Haha, if you see me here, why don't you get out of here? Mr. Qiao sneered at first, but then turned into scolding. Dai Hanfei lowered his head, resisted the pressure and said, Mr. Qiao, I came here under the order of senior brother Xiao Tian to take Xiao Fan to see him. Mr. Qiao frowned and said in a deep voice, You used the name of a disciple to suppress me? I think you are crazy, right? Of course I don't dare. Dai Hanfei felt bitter. He thought it was an easy job, but in the end he provoked the North Pavilion Master of Zhenbao Pavilion. But if Xiao Fan can't be brought back, what will Xiao Tian explain? Dai Hanfei lowered his head, thought for a moment, and then said, But I still want to ask the senior for permission. I want to fight Xiao Fan in a life-and-death battle. Both parties will sign a life-and-death certificate. If I win, then I will take Xiao Fan away. If I lose, then I will let Xiao Fan handle it. Old Xiao was startled and was about to refuse, but at this moment he heard Xiao Fan speak in a deep voice, I agree. Everyone around was stunned, and everyone looked at Xiao Fan, including old Xiao. Xiao Fan, your injury has not recovered yet, don't worry. Long Anhai hurriedly persuaded. Long Zizai also said, That's right, his cultivation is the 6th level of the Qi transformation realm, 2 small realms higher than you, and you are still injured. Even old Xiao persuaded, You don't have to care about a mere outer disciple of Piamiao Immortal Palace. At this time, another strong wind surged in the air, and a figure appeared in the air. After he arrived, he first clasped his fists to old Xiao, and then stood with Long Zizai. The man who came was a middle-aged man, tall and mighty, and it was the city lord of Jingchuan City, Lu Jiming. No, I want to fight. Xiao Fan took a step forward and clasped his fists to the 3 people in the air one by one. These 3 people came for him, and he must remember this favor. Although he didn't know the last city lord Lu Jiming, he roughly guessed his identity. Hearing Xiao Fan's agreement, Dai Hanfei's face was full of joy. In this way, he could beat Xiao Fan half to death openly and then take him back to report to Xiao Tian. In order to curry favor with Xiao Tian, Dai Hanfei even risked his life. Xiao Yuan, Wei Xia, and a group of Xiao family members on the side breathed a sigh of relief. From the appearance of Long Zizai to the appearance of old Xiao, their hearts have been bang 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 and they dare not even breathe. 3 days later, in the city lord's mansion arena, I will fight you to the death. Chapter 48 Another Breakthrough. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. No one could figure out why Xiao Fan would agree to fight the other party in a life-and-death battle. You must know that Dai Hanfei is a disciple of the Immortal Palace, so his practice is naturally extraordinary, and his cultivation is 2 small realms higher than Xiao Fan. This battle was very unfavorable to Xiao Fan. However, Xiao Fan was determined to do so, and it was useless for others to continue to persuade him. The matter was settled and everyone left, after Xiao Fan personally saw off Mr. Qiao and City Lord Lu Jiming. He went directly into the secret room to retreat. On the other side, Dai Hanfei naturally left with Xiao Yuan and his wife. Dai Hanfei was arrogant and domineering when he was at the Long family, but he still didn't dare to be presumptuous when dealing with Xiao Tian's parents. In the secret room, Xiao Fan sat cross-legged and remained motionless for 2 days in the blink of an eye. Xiao Fan's spiritual consciousness in the star diagram was full of spiritual power. He first took a large amount of elixirs and herbs to restore injuries, and then absorbed a large amount of spiritual stones to practice. In the star diagram, the space here is isolated from the outside world. The spiritual power in the air is thin, so it stands to reason that cultivation will be slower than ordinary people. However, Xiao Fan's ability to absorb spiritual stones was astonishingly fast, which was related to the high level of the techniques he practiced. After all, the 9 transformations of Qi transformation that Xiao Fan is currently practicing is an Earth-level skill, which is far from being comparable to the Xian-level skills. "Break it for me," Xiao Fan shouted loudly, and his cultivation energy radiated out, shaking the space within the star map. Veins popped up on his face, and he used all his strength to break through. That's right, he has spent 2 days reaching the peak of the 4th level of Qi transformation realm, and now he is trying to break through to the 5th level of Qi transformation realm. Rumble, a loud noise was heard, and Xiao Fan exuded a terrifying coercion from his whole body. This was a sign of breakthrough. Not only was the consciousness within the star dot diagram emitted, but even the physical body outside also emitted this coercion. Pressure, the sound of this breakthrough was loud, much stronger than when Xiao Fan broke through to the 4th level before, and attracted the attention of many Long family members. Fortunately, the vibration disappeared after only a moment. Is this coercion coming from the 3rd master? A servant muttered in a low voice and started discussing with others. The ancestors of the Long family, Long Anhai and other clan elders were naturally aware of it, but after some discussion, none of them came to disturb Xiao Fan, allowing the latter to practice in peace. I finally entered the 5th level of Qi transformation realm. In the star map, Xiao Fan slowly opened his eyes, clenched his fists, and felt that his current strength was much stronger than when he was at the 4th level of the Qi transformation realm. If we fight Murong again, it will be very easy to defeat him. A smile appeared on Xiao Fan's lips. He was confident that with his current strength, he could defeat Murong. Xiao Fan stood up, and a huge star floated in front of him in the starry sky. Xiao Fan's initial cultivation of the 5th level of Qi transformation realm exploded in full force, the surroundings shook, and huge waves formed by the strong wind exploded in circles with Xiao Fan as the center. With his right hand, the golden light of the broken throat lock seal flourished. Xiao Fan jumped up fiercely, aimed at the 4th star and smashed it. "Break it for me." Rumble, there was another loud noise, much louder than the one when Xiao Fan broke through just now. However, after the seal bombarded the 4th star, the star was only slightly shattered on the outside, but it was still far from being shattered. Xiao Fan stopped his hand and panted heavily. He had consumed most of his spiritual power just now. The stars that looked broken just now slowly returned to their original form. Sure enough, you need to at least reach the 6th level of Qi transformation realm. Xiao Fan murmured to himself. He did not have the idea of breaking the stars this time. The first reason for doing this was to test his current strength. The second point was to see if the difficulty of breaking the stars every time was the same as his. It was just a general guess before. Another day and night passed. During this period, Xiao Fan had been consolidating his cultivation in the star map. For this reason, he also took a lot of nourishing elixirs. In the secret room, Xiao Fan slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was extremely profound, and the aura around him was stronger than before. Why is it so messy around here? Xiao Fan was stunned and looked around. The furniture, tables and chairs around him were all broken into pieces. Is it caused by my breakthrough? Xiao Fan touched his head, then stood up and opened the door to the secret room. Long Miaoyin was waiting at the door. Seeing Xiao Fan come out safely, she breathed a sigh of relief. "Xiao Fan, you." She was very worried about the violent noise coming from Xiao Fan's secret room a day ago, so she simply waited at the door for Xiao Fan to come out. "I'm fine. Let's go to the city lord's mansion." In Jingchuan City, the arena outside the city lord's palace was already overcrowded. It has long been spread that Xiao Fan, the Long family's adopted son-in-law, is going to face off against the outer disciples of Piaomiao Immortal Palace. Everyone in Jingchuan City was eager to come over and watch this rare fight between dragons and tigers. Xiao Fan, who had been a waste for 19 years, joined the Long family as his son-in-law, but ended up defeating Long Xiaotian, the genius of the Long family. Opposite me, Dai Hanfei is even more noble, a disciple of Piaomiao Immortal Palace, and his cultivation is at the 6th level of Qi transformation realm. No matter how you look at this battle, Dai Hanfei has a greater chance of winning. Dai Hanfei and the Xiao family arrived in front of the city lord's mansion early in the morning. In the past 3 days, Dai Hanfei had good food and good accommodation at Zhao's house. Xiao Yuan even found 7 or 8 beautiful women from the brothel to keep him company, which made Dai Hanfei extremely happy. You must know that Piaomiao Immortal Palace is strictly controlled. Such mundane things do not exist there and are not allowed to exist. Hanfei, it's up to you later. Just give that little beast some time to breathe, and then take it back to Xiaotian. Xiao Yuan sneered from the side. That's right, what can that trash do? Let him not be polite when he sees me. Then you break his legs later. I want to see him kneel on the ring, kowtow to me and admit his mistake. Wei Xia was also full of hatred. Dai Hanfei nodded and said, Uncle, Aunt, don't worry, this Xiao Fan was only at the 4th level of the Qi transformation realm 3 days ago, which is not enough evidence. I will definitely teach him a lesson and break every fiber in his body. Bones, make him regret not leaving me obediently. Hearing this, Xiao Yuan and Wei Xia showed satisfied smiles on their faces. Xiao Fan is here, Xiao Fan is here. At this time, Xiao Fan, surrounded by everyone from the Long family, strode toward the ring. Standing next to him was Long Anhai, Long Miaoyin and Long Kaiwei following behind him, and behind him were a group of clan elders and Long Xiaotian. The ancestor of the Long family did not show up, but appeared in the city lord's mansion standing with the city lord Lu Jiming. Do you think you can win this competition? Lu Jiming asked. I have no idea. The ancestor of the Long family paused for a moment before smiling again. However, Xiao Fan seems to have not lost yet. When Dai Hanfei saw Xiao Fan arriving, he laughed directly. Ha ha ha, you're finally here, trash. Then he stood up and jumped onto the ring, looking at Xiao Fan with a fierce look in his eyes. Boy, it's not too late for you to admit defeat now. In the audience, Xiao Fan looked at him like he was an idiot, and said calmly, this is actually what I want to say to you. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Fan jumped onto the ring and stood opposite Dai Hanfei. Chapter 49 The Power of Crushing. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The two of them looked at each other. Dai Hanfei had a sinister smile on his face, looking at Xiao Fan like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Xiao Fan, who was opposite him, kept staring at the other person with a look that looked like a fool, as if curious, where did the other person get his confidence? Are you that weak? In a life and death battle, you first sign a life and death certificate. Once signed, life or death depends on your fate. Everyone depends on their ability. City Lord Lu Jiming flew into the air and threw a jade slip into the hands of Xiao Fan and Dai Hanfei below. Engrave the brand of spiritual consciousness into it, and the status of life and death will take effect immediately. Although Xiao Fan and Long Xiaotian were fighting a life and death battle before, the two parties did not sign a life and death certificate, but this time the situation is different. Dai Hanfei is a disciple of Piaomiao Immortal Palace. If Xiao Fan really beats him to death, he must have an explanation for this matter. Xiao Fan placed the jade slip on his forehead, and his spiritual consciousness entered it. The content inside was about whether he agreed to a life and death battle with Dai Hanfei. A small part of his spiritual consciousness was imprinted on it. The jade slip emits a faint blue light, and the contract was completed. Dai Hanfei on the other side was very agile. When Xiao Fan put down the jade slip, the other side had already completed the imprinting and threw it back to Lu Jiming. He also looked at Xiao Fan provocatively. Do you really want to die? Xiao Fan murmured, then threw the jade slip back to Lu Jiming. Lu Jiming got 2 jade slips. After checking to confirm that they were correct, he took a deep look at Xiao Fan and then disappeared. It's useless for you to regret now, trash. But don't worry, I won't kill you. I will only break all the bones in your body and make you a useless person. I will take you back like mud and give it to Xiao brother Tian. Dai Hanfei had a ferocious smile on his face, and a long sword appeared in his hand, emitting a dazzling light. It is a mysterious magic weapon. Many of the onlookers took a breath. These people were all from Jingchuan City. How had they ever had the opportunity to see a mysterious magic weapon? It's no wonder that he is from Qiaomiao Immortal Palace. One of his disciples has a mysterious magic weapon. Isn't that right? We in Jingchuan City don't have a few Xian-level magic weapons in total, right? Xiao Fan is in danger. If it doesn't work, I have to raise my bet and win if I buy the opponent. Xiao Fan sneered, "Don't worry, I won't break your ribs, but I will kill you." Having said that, a mysterious magical weapon also appeared in Xiao Fan's hand, the three-tassel ghost-headed sword, which was no weaker than the opponent's long sword. After the Elixir mine ended, the ancestor of the Long family had already taken back the Sanying ghost-head sword. When he first arrived, he asked Long Anhai to hand the sword to Xiao Fan. This represents the attitude of the Long family. Dai Hanfei was stunned, and looked at Sanying ghost-head saber, looking up and down. "You, a loser, actually have a mysterious magic weapon. It seems that I really underestimate you." Xiao Fan did not speak and continued to look at the opposite side with an idiot's eyes, but the onlookers became excited again. 2 mysterious level magic weapons. You must know that the last time Xiao Fan and Long Xiaotian fought, both of them were barehanded and no one used magic weapons. However, they all thought it was extremely exciting when they watched the battle like that. What's more, now that 2 mysterious level magic weapons have appeared, what will they look like? You talk too much. Xiao Fan shouted coldly, raised the ghost-headed sword in his hand above his head, poured his own spiritual power into the long sword, and then swung the sword out. A terrifying coercion emitted from the blade, forming a fierce hurricane. Along with the sword energy, it attacked Dai Hanfei on the opposite side. Dai Hanfei was stunned. He didn't expect that the opponent would suddenly take action, and judging from the power of this move, the opponent's strength was by no means simple. However, as a disciple of Qiaomiao Immortal Palace, he did not panic. He raised his long sword horizontally and made a gesture to disperse the sword energy. However, when he just waved his sword, Xiao Fan's figure rushed forward. In the blink of an eye, he was above Dai Hanfei's head. The ghost-headed sword in his hand suddenly slashed at Dai Hanfei's head. The power was astonishing. The sword energy was several times stronger just now. What? Dai Hanfei was shocked. He didn't expect Xiao Fan to strike so quickly and so harshly. First, he used the sword energy to attract his attention, waited for him to draw his sword, and then he dodged and attacked. He was forced to raise his sword to defend Xiao Fan's ghost-head saber, otherwise the sword would split him in half. But in this case, he would have to be attacked by the sword in front of him. Damn it! Dai Hanfei cursed. If it were an ordinary monk who could achieve 80% success with this move, the winner would be determined, because whether he was hit by the ghost-head saber or injured by the sword energy, it would be fatal to the monks who were not in the Tongtian realm. However, Dai Hanfei is a disciple of the Immortal Palace after all, so he naturally has a lot of treasures on him. He raised his sword with his right hand to block the ghost-headed sword coming from midair. He patted the storage bag with his left hand and took out a silver charm from it. I ignited the pinching talisman in my left hand, and then threw it at the sword energy that was close at hand. A light shield was immediately formed to resist the attack of the sword energy. The long sword in his right hand also resisted the attack of the ghost-head saber, but the power from the ghost-head saber in Xiao Fan's hand made his wrist numb. Xiao Fan didn't hesitate, he raised the ghost-headed sword in his hand again, and then slashed at Dai Hanfei. Those who use knives build up their strength. The sword must be full of power and have the courage to split the sky and cover the earth, in order to exert the greatest power of the sword. This is very consistent with Xiao Fan's character. Damn! Dai Hanfei cursed in a low voice and kept swinging the long sword in his hand to block the opponent's attack. His right wrist was sore from the shock that the sword in his hand was almost knocked away by the opponent's long sword several times. He never dreamed that Xiao Fan on the opposite side could be so strong. Is this the trash Xiao Tian calls? Just like Xiao Yuan and Wei Xia let themselves beat each other half to death, just let them breathe. What a joke. As for the people around him, they were already dumbfounded. From the first move Xiao Fan made, they were dazzled. Oh my god, this Xiao Fan is so strong, he can actually beat the Immortal Palace disciples on the opposite side. Did you see it? Just now Xiao Fan fired his sword energy first, and then he rushed forward. He was even faster than the sword energy. I didn't even see his movements clearly. Who first called Xiao Fan a loser? That everyone in the Long family was in a good mood. Long Anhai and other elders looked excited and wished they could clap their hands and applaud. On the contrary, the Xiao family's side was completely lifeless. Xiao Yuan clenched his hands tightly, with a look of disbelief on his face, and murmured, "Impossible. Impossible. He is obviously a waste, that he couldn't figure out why Xiao Fan was so strong." Dai Hanfei on the opposite side was at the 6th level of the Qi transformation realm, but Xiao Fan could actually overpower him. Wei Xia next to him was in a similar situation. Damn it, how could this little beast like Xiao Fan be so strong? However, Dai Hanfei, who is now in the ring, has already cursed Xiao Tian, Xiao Yuan, and Wei Xia's 18 generations of ancestors 800 times in his heart. Is this what you call trash? He now seriously doubts whether Xiao Tian sent him to die. Damn it. Dai Hanfei had forgotten how many times he had cursed. He would definitely die if he continued like this. Death flashed in his eyes. He patted the storage bag and took out a thunder and fire talisman in his hand. After sealing the seal, he threw it at Xiao Fan. It took the detonation of more than a dozen thunder and fire talismans to force Xiao Fan back. Chapter 50 Blood Burning Pill. You are listening at NavelFull.audio. Taking this opportunity, Dai Hanfei retreated sharply, breathing heavily. His right hand was numb from the shock, and his wrist was obviously red and swollen. If it weren't for the fact that he was a disciple of Piamiao Immortal Palace and had many ways to save his life, he might have died at Xiao Fan's hands by now. Thinking of this, his eyes were blood red, and he used the talisman to resist Xiao Fan's sword energy, as well as the more than 10 thunder and fire talismans he had just used, which made him feel very painful, but these things are nothing compared to his life. The only thing he has to think about now is how to defeat the opponent. If Dai Hanfei was given a chance, he would definitely choose to leave 3 days ago. Maybe he would choose to give up following Xiao Tian. After all, you only have one life. The detonation of more than a dozen thunder and fire talismans caused some trouble to Xiao Fan, but it only forced him back temporarily without any injuries on his body. Based on his current physical strength, even if he were to withstand more than a dozen thunder and fire talismans, it wouldn't be a big deal. Seeing that Xiao Fanxi was fine and about to continue charging towards him with the knife, Dai Hanfei's eyes became more fierce. He patted the storage bag again, and a jade bottle appeared in his hand. He poured out a red pill with a distressed look on his face, and then swallowed it in one gulp. After swallowing the elixir, Dai Hanfei's eyes suddenly turned blood red, veins popped up on his face, and his whole body became more energetic. What's going on? Xiao Fan frowned, but he had already raised the knife and was approaching, so there was no reason to retreat. Damn! Xiao Fan, you deserve to die. Dai Hanfei roared and cursed, and the sword in his hand made a buzzing sound. His breath suddenly increased a lot compared to just now. It has almost reached the 7th level of Qi transformation realm, and it is still increasing. What's going on? What did this Immortal Palace disciple eat just now? Why does it feel like the medicine is more severe than the medicine Long Xiaotian took last time? This Immortal Palace disciple looks so scary. The onlookers were all shocked and frightened by the appearance of Dai Hanfei in front of them. The faces of the Long family were ugly, and all the clan elders looked at each other, but no one recognized what the elixir was. Everyone in the Xiao family changed their faces, and Xiao Yuan even shouted loudly, "Hanfei, remember to save your breath for this little beast. Don't beat him to death." He was worried that Xiao Fan would die if Dai Hanfei's head got hot. However, after hearing Xiao Yuan's words, Dai Hanfei in the ring cursed loudly, "Get out!" He was very angry. If it weren't for his Xiao family, how could he end up in this situation? The pill he took was the burning blood pill. a pill that forcibly burned blood essence to increase combat power. It was several times more effective than the purple fire pill, but the sequelae were also several times more serious. If the foundation is damaged, essence and blood will continue to burn for a long time. In serious cases, one's life will not be saved, and at least one's cultivation will be stagnant for a lifetime. This get out scolded Xiao Yuan so much that he froze on the spot, his face turned red and he didn't say a word. Long Zizai and Lu Jiming were in the city lord's palace. They both saw Dai Hanfei's condition and recognized the blood-burning pill. Their faces were gloomy and neither of them spoke, and above the void in the arena, Mr. Qiao narrowed his eyes. He had been here a long time ago, but he just didn't show up. He had watched the entire battle between Xiao Fan and Dai Hanfei just now, and was amazed by the former. He did not expect that he would break through again in 3 days. However, what was even more surprising was that he did not expect that Dai Hanfei would have a pill like burning blood pill. Blood-burning pill. Dai Hanfei has no plans for a future, Xiao Fan, how do you want to deal with it? On the ring, Xiao Fan came over with a knife. He also felt the extreme danger from Dai Hanfei. However, what surprised him even more was that the other party actually scolded Xiao Yuan. This made Xiao Fan stunned for a moment, but it feels great. The long knife in Xiao Fan's hand was aimed at Dai Hanfei's head and struck down. The knife was bound to be 2 points stronger just now. He wanted to end the battle quickly. Dai Hanfei's current state is really weird. Dai Hanfei also shouted loudly, and swung his long sword to meet the ghost-headed sword. His whole body was covered in blood, and Xiao Fan even smelled the smell of blood. Swords clash, Xiao Fan's wrist felt numb, and the opponent's strength was completely different from before. However, he did not step back and continued to slash at Dai Hanfei with his knife. The latter did the same, waving the long sword in his hand as if he was risking his life. In other words, the moment he took the burning blood pill, it was as if he was dying. In the blink of an eye, the two sides fought for more than 10 rounds, and there were blood marks on each other's bodies, but Xiao Fan was obviously more seriously injured. Dai Hanfei's momentum completely overwhelmed him. Xiao Fan estimated that the opponent's cultivation level was at least the 7th level of Qi transformation realm. Damn, you were so careless. Xiao Fan looked ugly. He originally thought that since he had reached the 5th level of Qi transformation realm, he would be sure to win against Dai Hanfei. But he still underestimated the sect disciples, from the first use of the silver talisman to resist his sword energy, to the subsequent use of more than 10 thunder and fire talismans at the same time, and finally the consumption of red pills. It can be seen how rich the family background of these sect disciples is. However, the other party was still a lot worse than Murong Fu. After all, the other party was a close disciple of Elder Ziyin Dongtian. Whether it was the techniques or magical weapons he practiced, Dai Hanfei could not compare with him. Xiao Fan, you actually forced me to take the blood-burning pill. Damn it, I want you to pay for it with your life. Dai Hanfei roared furiously. At this moment, he was overwhelmed by anger and completely forgot about Xiao Tian's matter. The consequence of taking blood-burning pill is that the foundation is damaged. If it is serious, you will not be able to advance even half a step in your future cultivation. Even if he returns to misty Immortal Palace, he will just be a waste. All of this was caused by Xiao Fan in front of him and their surname Xiao. Dai Hanfei rushed forward again with a murderous sword in his hand, his body emitting a torrential light of blood. Xiao Fan spat out blood, his eyes were cold and stern, but at this moment, a voice suddenly came from his ears. The burning blood pill uses his own essence and blood as a guide. With his strength, it can last for up to half a quarter of an hour. This is Mr. Qiao. Xiao Fan was surprised. The sound transmission technique requires at least a cultivation level of Xiandan level before it can be used. He knew that Mr. Qiao had a distinguished status and was the North Pavilion master of the Treasure Pavilion, but he did not expect that the other party's cultivation level would be so high. But Xiao Fan couldn't be allowed to think about that now. He held the ghost head sword in his hand, took a deep breath, and planned to fight Dai Hanfei head-on. Just half an hour, Xiao Fan can hold on. There were more and more blood stains on Xiao Fan's body, his white robe was dyed red, and the bones inside could be seen through the wounds in many parts of his body, but Dai Hanfei on the opposite side was different. The effect of the blood-burning pill made him almost crazy. He was slashed several times and was dripping with blood, but he continued to swing his sword as if nothing happened. This made Xiao Fan completely passive. A person who is not afraid of pain and does not care about his life is very scary. If it were anyone else, facing such an opponent, they would probably have lost the desire to fight. However, Xiao Fan doesn't do that. He treats others harshly and treats himself even more harshly.